Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this 98th episode of ClariTea Chat. Yes, you're right. We'll be shortly reaching 100. More on that later. Well, just to start just to start the chat, everyone everywhere is struggling with their projects, despite good project plans, good documentation, and an amazing amount of hard work being put in by all the teams concerned. Why so? And isn't it frustrating? So today we'll be discussing this important theme, program management pitfalls. Well, the theme of the Clarity Chat itself is that 83% of the programs fail to achieve um, their intended business success. And the reason I do Clarity Chat is because I had a fairly good record, nearly 100%. And as I am working with a few customers on as a program mentor, I'm realizing that the program management practices, behaviors, culture, etc., very different from what I used to have. So what you have, you don't realize the importance or the goodness of it until you go and see someone else doing the same thing in a less efficient manner. So as I'm realizing, I'm kind of like figuring out what the gap is, and today's session is actually motivated by what we are learning together. I'm not sure, not that I'm not learning, I'm also learning. um, and which what is a better forum than Clarity Chat to share these learnings? Okay. Well, we simplify these complex issues like program management through candid and interactive discussions and examples. So please keep your questions coming. I want to understand where are your, what are your experiences in managing projects? Where do you think the fallacies happen? If you're struggling with a particular project in a particular area, please share here, and maybe I might be able to help focus the content on that part of your question. So we will cover a balance between rigor, flexibility, and governance. um, uh, any program today cannot be run by a single organization, so there have to be multiple organizations which get involved. So how do you collaborate? What is How do you build a strong culture within the program itself of collaboration and whatever intended behaviors you expect people to have? Fact driven management. I mean, the more I see in the world today, the less I see of it. We are driven more by opinions and emotions rather than by facts. And I'll share some experiences and certain hacks about how to use fact driven management, and there may be certain things which may not be covered in the so-called text. And finally, a mindset of what can go wrong. Okay, so every day as a project manager or as a project sponsor or mentor, if you're asking this question, what can go wrong, and formally document that, take it forward, I think that's one of the biggest ways to make a project success. Okay. So um, that's what we will discuss today, and of course we'll balance it with live questions from our audience, which obviously get the higher priority. So please ask any question related to program management or leadership, or any insights that you're getting out of it which you want to discuss, whatever you feel compelling for yourself. It's an opportunity to have a stimulating and candid discussion on leadership and technology insights. So let's go on. But before I go forward, I already see a few comments here, not a lot. So let me quickly come back to my audience. We have CXOs, founders, IT managers, and seasoned technology industry leaders in our audience. All of us know that technology is necessary but not sufficient to drive business performance. and a theme of this, of this chat. Um, People on Clarity Chat, including myself, we have built the bridge between the necessary and sufficient, and Clarity Chat is that bridge for you, um, as you are trying to manage technology in whatever role that you are. Clarity Chat helps you cross those bridges. Okay. Well, it's all experiences, no GAN. And thank you for all for joining us for the last 97 episodes, and encouraging us with those interactions and questions, which is what keep us going. I can't still believe that it's more than 2 years that we have been doing this, and I think the more and more I think about it, it's been the lively interactions and the quality of questions, and the attendance on Clarity Chat that makes us going. So thank you all for attending. Now let's begin the session. But before I go forward, let me quickly bring in people who have joined here. And well, I always invite you guys to share your name and where you're joining from in the comment section of wherever you are, either LinkedIn or YouTube. So meanwhile, let us see who all have been the first ones to say hello. Hey, hi Rajiv, good to see you here, man. And then I have one LinkedIn user looking forward to nuggets of wisdom on program management. And my team tells me that's Mohit Harbola. Hey, thanks Mohit for joining. And then I have Abhishek Jain. Thanks JB for setting this up. Hey, thanks Abhishek for joining. And Bhupendra from OT Oman. Wow, joining us from Oman. That should be about 3:30 p.m. Your um, Saturday siesta time, and you're giving it to us. I'm flattered, Bhupen. Thank you so much. And we have Bhuvan Bhatt joining here. So, guys, please keep your comments coming. Tell us your name and where you're joining from. Okay. So let's try to set the stage for, like, what are the biggest reasons, why we struggle with the with technology programs. So number one is, um, most of the competencies, or most of the hands competencies, the skills, are coming from partners. Okay, so and they are not fully in your control, however you may want to think like that. Okay, and we know very well that the traditional so-called vendor management approaches, they don't work in technology. We have, white collar, really senior, really knowledgeable and talented people out there. They cannot be bullied around, and you cannot work with them like traditional vendors, right? The second part of it, and I think that's probably the first pitfall, how we maximize the contribution of our partners. The second thing is that, any of our programs, they, while we are leading that, you know, all the work that we are doing is in enabling those business processes, or transitioning the data, etc., etc. All of that actually lies in the business domain. Okay, so all the business functions, they control all the decisions, and I'm sure all of you will agree that, getting the sign off on requirements, getting the sign off on UATs, and getting any decisions to progress your program is like, is a uphill task, right? So here is the conundrum, that as a department, IT is driving the project and is responsible for time, cost, and deliverables, whereas almost all the decisions that you have to get are actually lying with the business function. So that's the second conundrum we have, right? And the third one is that project or program, by definition, okay, changes every day. So it's not a fixed, it's not like any of your departments, like producing a car, or let's say, or making your financial reports, or let's say, clearing any transactions, or answering customer calls. Things change on an everyday basis in a program, right? So it's very, very fluid. And how do you get your hands around an amoeba which is always changing shapes? Okay, so these are the three things which make, technology programs in particular, programs in general, difficult. And I think most of the problems that you will realize, that we have are primarily coming from this kind of from these three unique factors that you probably don't find in any other function, if you think about it, right, or in any other operation. So let's now come to the first one, which is basically the um, what I call as a balance between the rigor, governance, and flexibility, right? So let's take the last one first, which is things keep changing all the time in a program, right? Even people who give some requirement today may come to you 2 months later and say the requirement had changed, right? So the first thing that we require is rigor. Okay. Now, when you have something which is absolutely changing every day, you really require the rigor in your processes, in your practices, in how you run the whole thing. And what does rigor mean really? I'm a first principle guy, so when I hear a word which sounds like eclectic, I will go deep down into it and try to define it in things, in terms that are measurable, that are real, that connect with you. So rigor basically means that not leaving any box unchecked, right? Anything that is discussed gets documented. Any decisions which are taken get documented. Any actions that we decide are reviewed regularly, and they are closed off, right? And at any point in time, I should know very I all that I have documented within my program. There cannot be anything out of it, right? And the most important thing here as a program manager, program sponsor, is that when we say program, it's not a small project. It's a large program. By definition, we are saying it covers multiple divisions. It covers probably multiple partners. It probably is being reviewed by your steering committee, which may even have a CEO in it. Okay, so we are talking of large programs here. So can you control it alone as a program manager? No. Okay, and that's where comes your uh, that's where comes creating those processes which drive the rigor, right? So now coming to the processes, okay, we come to the biggest process that we require in programs, which is called the governance, right? So governance is governance. Actually, I am still reminded of when I learned my biggest lesson in governance. It is a single sentence coined by Gartner, which says governance is the design of decision making. Now, if it sounds esoteric to you, let me try to debug it for you. Okay, so uh, if everything is in my hands, right, I don't need a decision making governance, right? Governance is required when the decisions are to be made jointly. That means I alone cannot make a decision. When my decisions impact others, either in terms of an eventual impact or in terms of taking help from them, using them to basically go forward, I have to involve them. There's no way you cannot involve them, right? So now think about it. We talked about those three areas. The businesses taking all the decisions, and the partners being out there. Uh, the first step of rigor is basically a very strong governance, right? And governance has to be at multiple levels, and we have to design it very thoughtfully. Okay. Um, so at a because now think about it, because a project is fluid, it's like an amoeba which is changing shape every day. I think the first and foremost thing that you require is a daily sync up between all the participants, not just your team, not just partner team, but everyone who is dealing with those changes on a daily basis need to come together and start what is called a daily sync up. So well, now I recently started mentoring a program, a very large program. And one of the first things that I did before looking at anything else is let's meet on a daily basis. It was uncomfortable at first because people are not used to that. Everyone is doing their work, but I think within a week or so we started realizing the benefit of that daily sync up, right? um, Things are changing every day. There are multiple people involved because it's a large program, and unless they sync up on a daily basis, how do you keep all the parts? How do you keep all the four wheels rolling in tandem? I mean, you can't if you're not, right. So you will have confusions. The second part again is, we said, we have partners, right? And we have, so anything that we are changing in the program, either in terms of either scope or any decisions that we are taking along with businesses or any technical decisions we are taking, eventually, if you are not taking the partner along, it will hit you back as a change request or a change in timelines. Okay. And I think that's one thing that all of us struggle, okay, which is the partner refusing to accept our decisions. Okay, now, as I said, in manufacturing or in any other area where there is the power equation is fairly asymmetric between the customer and the partner, you can actually bamboozle your way through, but not in technology. The partners will push back. They probably have better experts than you. Okay, they do better documentation than you. Okay, and they're more rigorous because for them it's a matter of their livelihood. Okay, for us it's matter of getting things done. For them it's a matter of livelihood, right? So you got to take them along. So the next element that you put in place is a governance with partners. Of course, they should be part of your daily sync ups, but whatever issues from those daily sync ups that require a higher level of involvement and decision making, you have to involve your partners, right? Now, then comes multiple partners. So if you are running a technology program, you typically will have a product partner and you will also have an SI partner. Okay. And most of the programs that fail, when you ask, when you go back and ask the SI partner, why did it? They would say the product had bugs and faults. You go and talk to the product partner, they will say, the SI didn't bring the right people. Okay. So this is one of the most pervasive and benign risks in technology, that your partners are not in sync. Typically the SI and product partner, but if you have other partners like infrastructure partner and all of that, it may be the same thing. So you got to set up an explicit partner governance where you are putting everybody into the same forum in on the same table, and from that daily forum that you have created, you are bubbling up all the issues which you are bringing to this forum, and then letting them resolve it along with you, most of the times between them itself. And then what happens is that the decisions that you are taking, okay, have a complete accountability from your partners. None of your partners can say that I didn't know. Okay, most of the time when things fail, if you find anybody important uh, uh, in that venture or program, uh, sneaking away, okay, uh, right in the beginning that I got to involve them in decision making so that they cannot sneak away, right? And it does a lot of good to the program. I may be sounding a little bit negative here, but let me ask you, you have product partners, you have the SI partner, senior people from them, and you sitting in the room, okay, and you discussing all the problems or all the issues that are appearing in the project, which may be, which the team is not able to solve, either at a ground level, either between, let's say, your business or your partner, or your own team. I mean, this is a powerful forum. You've got the best minds discussing and resolving the program problems. I mean, it can do a lot of good to you. Now, that's the second thing I typically do when when I'm looking at this thing. It is again uncomfortable. The partners are not used to it. The customer is not used to it. But it's important, and they realize that after a couple of meetings that the outcomes that we are getting, the quality of discussions we are getting, and the kind of issues that we start identifying in those at a slightly higher level are very different. So before I go forward to the next one, Um, Let me also say that governance is always at multiple levels, and there is a process called bubbling up. Bubbling up means, you know, if something at a ground level you set up a mechanism, a decision making mechanism, and if they cannot take a decision, if they differ on that decision bubbles up to the next level. Okay, and if there also you cannot resolve it, it bubbles up to a different level. So you have multi-level governance for bubbling up those issues, right? uh, Now the same thing applies on the business side as well, right? So you have business, those what we call as business process owners or key users, or like, there are different names, or process owners or process experts, and the division heads who own all the decisions about their business processes and data, right? Um, Now, well, you can go after them, follow up with them, and get your decisions, get your UAT sign off. You can beg, borrow, steal, or negotiate with them for those sign offs. But I think if you think about from a decision making point of view, these are decisions. The business process decisions are something that will impact the product, that will impact future support from IT, and that will impact your partner, their efforts as well. So why not bring them all together? So that's probably the other forum that you need to think of, is that how do I set up these forums. Can you hear me, guys? I heard some sound on my speaker. Okay, just comment yes, we can hear you, and I'll be good. Okay. So um, um, so set up a sort of regular review as a program manager. Set up a regular review where, again, all the issues, decisions, you know or like anything that, let's say, your partner consultant or functional consultant cannot resolve with the business guys, you pick them up in a division head kind of meeting and get your decisions, right? So so we discussed about, and well, then you have the next and the highest level of governance, which is basically your steering committee. And anything that you're not able to resolve at any of these levels, it actually goes back to the steering committee, right? Um, Now let me bring forward one of the discussion topics I mentioned, because it gels so well here, which is the mindset of risk. Okay. Um, I have actually asked people, many times, that, hey, do you have a risk register? Okay. And I find that no. Okay. I would say every department, if you're a leader or if you're a manager of any kind, I think somewhere you got to have a list of things that can go wrong. And if you always keep an eye on what can go wrong, things will automatically go right, isn't it? Okay. But many times, we turn optimists. Okay, and optimism is a pretty bad thing when it comes to managing anything, whether it's operations or programs. Okay, so please don't be optimist, be a realist. Think about what can go wrong. Now, how and when and how, I mean, that's what the entire session is all about. So again, the starting point for what can go wrong, or the risk mindset, is again your governance forums, again your, let's say, and I would start with the daily management. In a daily management or daily sync up, one of the things that a program manager must ask everyone, guys, as of now, how, where and how we stand today, what do you think can go wrong in short, medium, or long term, right? What's going to hold us back? So just asking that question and doing a brainstorming around it, you start getting inputs on what can go wrong. So there are a number of things. I mean, I instituted it in a program, and we could actually make the whole risk management, we could bring it alive. Okay, generally risk management is like, one of the check boxes. The people will ask you, hey, do you have a risk register? You will say, I have a risk register, right? That risk register is not updated. In the one where, we made it real and live, the risk register was like, I don't know, It was the initial in the program. It was created, and nobody had actually looked at it. It was parked as like something which we have done. And then, like, once we started noticing it, we realized that, hey, you know what? I mean, we are putting up a completely new system, a fair bit of modernization, from what we have. And you know what? Maybe our network may be a risk. You know, our network may not support it. So somebody started looking at and sizing up that network risk. We said, hey, you know what, are our devices really capable of carrying this kind of computing load and all? And then somebody now looking at the devices. So like that, we figured out that it is not just about what can go wrong in the program. The moment you start asking that question, it will come back to that 83% equation. Okay, what can go wrong in we not being able to realize the value coming out of this program? And that's when you may start identifying, let's say, issues around change management. You'll say that, hey, my new business process is completely different from the old business process, and that's what can go wrong. Okay, so then what you do is you basically start discussing that in your business governance forum that I just spoke about, and make them aware of it, that guys, you got to do a lot of heavy lifting here. The change management is most has to be mostly driven by the business leaders. Okay, so and finally, now we come to flexibility, right? Now think about it. If you are rigorous, okay, if you have the right governance forums in place, right from your daily to whatever, once a week or once in 2 weeks with your partner, and maybe once a week or once in 2 weeks with your business process guys, a sort of formal one, where you discuss last meetings, minutes and open actions, and then bring in like these things bubbling up from everywhere. Um, I think you will have that flexibility, coming as a process itself, right? Um, so that brings us to the rigor, flexibility, governance, balance. Okay. The next one I want to pick up is the fact-based management. Meanwhile, guys, sorry, I have not been coming to. I know quite a few of you are joining this session. So let me again come back to you before I pick up the next important topic of fact-based management. Uh, so let me come here. So we have Rajendra Negi from Pune. Hey, hi, Rajendra. Uh, we have Sumit from Greater Noida. Thanks, Sumit. And now we have a question. He says, if there is a program which is being executed by a partner while the buying organization governs it, what are the three key aspects you would recommend to be considered at the start of the program and on an ongoing basis? Okay. Which is being executed by a partner while the buying organization governs it. What are the three key aspects you would recommend to be considered at the start of the program? I think the biggest one will be what, again, it comes brings us back to the same problem. I think it is Mohit, if I'm correct, Mohit. So let me see. Yeah, okay. So that question is from Mohit. Uh, so Mohit, this is a typical, what I mentioned. Like you have just too many cooks in the, in the broth, and they may spoil. Uh, well, as I said, I will not go into the PMI kind of program management, because I'm assuming that most of you know it. The theory and the science part of project and program management. So I wanted to pick up these typical soft issues here. But your question forces me to go back to again something which I don't see in many programs, which is called RACI. Okay, a responsibility matrix. Okay, so looking at all the stakeholders and what decisions they carry, what are they responsible for. So there's a buying organization, there's a partner, and you as IT or whatever are being asked to execute it. You want to be very clear who plays what role. Okay, and that's the RACI. In any large program, I think you are destined for failure if you don't have a full RACI in place. RACI is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Okay. Uh, because let me tell you, try this out. Okay. If you don't have one, try this out. Just build a RACI. A RACI is very simple. It's like a list of things that need to be done, and you put all the stakeholder names there. There are multiple ways. The one I prefer is that you put all the stakeholder names one by one, person by person, not by department, because the RACI has to be owned at an individual level. So if there are two people for a particular activity, you still write both their names. Okay. And that again is part of the rigor that I was talking about. And then you start putting, like, for this activity, this guy is responsible, this guy is accountable, this guy has to be consulted, and these three guys need to be informed, like that, right? Try doing it for let's say one area, one small set of activities, and see the debate it generates. Okay. Now let me dig back into my own experience. I had a I had this kind of a situation. There was a program where we had our IT department, where I was the head. The program was actually constituted, run, constituted, budgeted, funded, and run by a business function. Okay. And they had brought in a partner. Okay. And then there was like our regular SI partner, our long-term partner who was there, right? So, and of course, there were the business function, right? So there are five guys here now, five cooks in the broth: IT, business function, IT partner of the business, our SI partner, and the business themselves, right? And the program was running 9 months late. Okay. This is the first thing I did actually. I actually got everyone into a room and I said, let's build RACI. Okay. We started building a high level RACI, not a very detailed one. And then we started putting, those names and all. I mean, you won't believe it took us 2 hours to build a RACI because there wasn't an agreement. There is an area where, like, my ongoing, my maintenance partner or my strategic partner says, I will do this. And the other guy says, no, that's what I have to do. That's what you hired me for. This is my contract. But finally, we resolved it. It took a long time, but we resolved it. And I think that was I would say, the bedrock of bringing that program back. Uh, and then we basically executed, we rebaselined the program, and we executed the program about 3 months before the deadline. It was a fairly large program, at least multi-quarter, 3 to 4 quarters long program, and we actually saved about 3 months. Now that's another story. I've talked about it before, but I hope that answers your question, Mohit. If it doesn't, if you have any residual question, please bring it back. Okay. Rajendra asks, and a single point of contact from each partner. Yes, we need to have a single point of contact from each partner, but again, this is a fallacy that we can get into when we are dealing with partners. Okay, which is to treat that partner as that single point of contact. That's it. Okay, and then start. And he's the messenger. There's a big organization behind that single point of contact, the partner, program manager, whoever, and you're just beating him without realizing what he's facing from his organization, right? So two things you need to do: you need to understand your partner deeper and better, right? You need to understand who are these guys, where are they coming from, right? I mean, use some informal sessions. Like, what I always tend to do is to take my partner, people. If I'm managing the program, I would typically take the entire partner team, not that single point of contact, right? You don't have to do whining and dining with that one guy and bring him on your side. Take the entire team out and then try to understand. So, I mean, I did that recently. Just take them out, and then, like, once everyone is settled and happy, like, just generate, like, hey, tell me more about yourself, and then, like, and then you realize that, oh my God, there is so much talent out there. You will find that, somebody has worked for, let's say, 15 years in a business function before he became IT consultant. And let's say, somebody has worked in different industries, different geographies, and that kind of knowledge when you gather about your partner resources, that is where that does two things. One is that it takes you beyond that single point of contact to understand where the partner is coming from, what their constraints are, what their capabilities are, and very importantly, where those capabilities are not coming to you just because you're looking at the roles or the responsibilities, right? There's so much more that people can do, just that if you know their capabilities better. Okay. And so use these informal mechanism. I'll come to that in the culture section. So yes and no, Rajan, when it comes to commercial stuff, you need a single point of contact. But when you are into execution and operation mode, you definitely need to know each and every person in your partner organization, right from CEO to the last consultant who's working for you. Know them, because if these people were within your organization, you would do the same thing, right? You would not simply talk to the department head, you will talk to the people under the department head also. So why your partner has to be treated differently, right? Okay. So I have my next comment. I see a lot of yeses that you guys can hear me. Thank you guys. I'm sitting alone in a room. My family has like abandoned me. They've gone for shopping. So there's nobody sitting in the next room telling me, okay, we can hear you. Okay. So that's why I'm relying on you. Okay. So Bhupen says mindset of risk. These are often accumulated in discussion forums and minds of participants, and reactions to these are reactive. How can this be avoided? Yeah. So Bhupen, I think I answered your question where I said make it explicit. Okay. See, there is a lot of things in people's mind unless you bring out a process, or let's say, I call them as rituals. Okay, rituals are like things like what you do every day. Like for example, I have a ritual every day morning when I get up. Like I look at my palms. And I was told in the childhood that um, you know it's always good to watch your palms than watch somebody's face in the morning, right? So this is like a ritual. So you get into a meeting and you don't come out of that meeting unless you have asked that question. Hey guys, can anybody think of what can go wrong? I mean, anything new that can go wrong, anything that we have missed. So there is ways to frame these questions in three or four different ways. But eventually, it is asking people to think about it and explicitly mention, and not after that has happened that you say that, oh, you know what, I had thought of it had gone wrong. But why didn't you say? Because nobody asked. So now I'm here, I'm asking you on an everyday basis, what can go wrong? Now I am simply taking away, whenever something goes wrong, I am taking away your right to say, I had thought so. So, Pan, think about it. It's a very powerful thing. Okay. And you know where this comes from, where that question comes from all the time, right? Okay. Um, yeah. Sriram says it's like driving a car. Good drivers are always optimistic cynics. Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I am reminded of a discussion I had with my CISO when he asked me. He was actually struggling to get my time for information security. So this guy was smart. He asked me, Jagdish, tell me, what do you need? What do you need for, let's say, making a faster car? Okay. And I was like, how does it relate to security? What are we talking about? And he said, no, you tell me first, then I will tell you how it is important for security. We started thinking like, better tires, better engine, etc., etc. And then he says, Jagdish, don't you think we need better brakes to drive a car faster? And I started thinking, I said, oh, yeah. If you actually built a faster engine and faster tires and everything, but then you forgot to work on the brakes, you're going to get into a crash, right? So this is the same thing with risk mindset as well, that, you're always looking at what can go wrong. In fact, this is what, especially in India, when you're driving around, you have to continuously evaluate where the next pedestrian is going to come in front of your car. Okay. Or you have to really see 1 kilometer ahead and continuously evaluate, right? Is somebody going to like come into your lane, or is somebody going to run in front of your car? Well, not very different. So yes, optimistic cynics, I like that. I like that. Okay. uh yeah. Agile Scrum meetings, quick updates and any issues, then separate meetings to address issues. Yes, Rajendra, Agile. In my startup, we are using Agile. Agile has its own, inefficiencies. I and my partner love to debate on those. Agile somehow gives you a very, very short-term, kind of perspective. You don't really end up looking beyond a sprint. So you really need to bring your long-term project planning, program planning. Okay, the what do you call those project plans with dependencies and various other things. You got to bring actually that together. If you are able to marry it with your agile methodology, I think you have got a very, very potent tool in your hand. But if you use only agile, or if you use only waterfall project management, I think you will have your inefficiencies. So really, in a way, what you need to do as a daily management forum in a program is very, very similar to agile. Yeah. So Bhupendra again says risk register. The purpose is defeated if the risk definition statement is clearly defined in the register. Uh, Bhupendra, I'm not sure what you mean here. Uh, I think you meant to say that if the if statement is not clearly defined in the register. Mm, yes, obviously, and I think the how you articulate is very important. And as a leader, don't accept anything which is hazy and ambiguous. You have to be very, very precise. You don't say that, hey, infrastructure is a risk. We have to nail it down. We have to say, uh, you know, right now, so moving from in-house, from on-prem to cloud will change the network traffic patterns, and our network may not support. Once you have a very clearly stated risk, then you can work on the mitigation. So another thing about risk register cannot be just one dimensional, that you just note down all the risks. There also has to be a mitigation. Risk is has to be always corroborated by a mitigation, that what are we going to do about it. And if you have a risk where you cannot do anything about, you cannot take it as a risk. I mean, the risk of war or the risk of riots, I cannot do anything about it, right? So why do I put it as a risk out there? So you have to have risk that you can mitigate. Okay, not any global risks. Okay. Okay, so one way to do this is to choose pre-aligned partners from day zero. Alternatively, apply prime and subprime contracts clause. Abhishek, as I said, I'm not getting into the science of program management. Yes, you can have pre-aligned partners. A known devil is always better than unknown devil. So somebody who has worked well for you in the past, even if he comes at 5 or 10% extra cost, take it if you are aligned better with them. So you don't need to experiment all the time. Okay. Okay. Then yeah, so Mohit says the idea of named RACI is interesting. Usually RACI just mention which party owns what. See, that is what happens, Mohit. That most times we just do it something just as a tick in the box or as a ritual. Okay, RACI happens to be one such thing. I would say it is such a important thing in any endeavor that you have, even in the day-to-day operations. Okay, that you just define it hazily that hey, this department owns it, this department owns it, this department owns it. I mean, there are multiple people in the department. Who exactly owns it? And anytime you come to this kind of RACI where you see the names not there, I mean, it's a recipe for disaster, because you know what? There is a adage which says everyone's responsibility is no one's responsibility, right? So keeping our city clean is everyone's responsibility. And you see how clean our cities are, right? Because I will throw garbage here and I'll say, yeah, you know what? Others are going to keep it clean. And when everybody thinks like that, you are nowhere. And the same thing happens in the RACI also. The moment you go for departmental RACIs instead of personal RACIs. And then what happens? The department head basically, like, can be conveniently reprimanded without really reaching anywhere. Okay. Um, then Rajendra is asking, RACI metrics fixed at the time of signing SOW. Yes, Rajendra, but it also has to evolve. One of the principles I always follow is that none of the documents um, can be frozen in time. These have to be live documents. Like, for example, risk register. In the recent instance, I found that the risk register was frozen in time. It was made at the time of start of the program. Then nobody looked at it. We made it a live document, right? You discuss it and update it every day. Similarly, RACI and all, anytime you see that something happening, something having a impact on RACI, change the RACI. And where will it come from? It will come from the same question that you keep asking every day: what can go wrong? What can go wrong? And somebody will think of that, hey, we added a new scope, or there's like a new partner who's handling something that we have added, and that guy is and there's something related to it. You will immediately bring him into the RACI matrix and update it, right? Okay. Okay, now Shriram has asked a question which takes me to the next part of what I wanted to cover. He says, I think building a tracker that captures the day-to-day actions between stakeholders too can be a critical referral. Absolutely, absolutely, Shriram. So now you are forcing me to go to fact-driven management, or fact-based management, or data-driven working. Okay. Um, let me let me first define what I mean by fact-driven management to all of you. Okay. So there are only two kinds of comments you will find in any meeting, right? Any meeting is any meeting, project or otherwise, right? And type of people, right? So there will be one type of people who will be like, will be very eloquent, flowery, and they will say, oh, we are doing very well. Our sales is better than last month, and our customer service issues are a little lower than last month. We have a few issues. Our um we have a few people leaving us. We have a little bit of attrition, etc., etc., etc. Now, what do you think is persistent in each of my sentence? There are adjectives and adverbs, right? A few, doing well, sales is increasing nicely, etc., etc. And then you will have, the other set of people who will simply say that, guys, our sales had a traditional month-on-month increment of 5%. This month we have done 7%. Our customer service issues are down. We are getting more customer service issues. We are 10% more, but then the issues which are open for more than a week are down by 5%. So we are able to handle this increase. And then he will say that we have our data shows that the new products that we launched, okay, are leading to are responsible for 70% of the new issues. Okay. I mean, think about which is better. If you are a manager and you have two guys, talking like this, which one would you prefer? Which one would you put your bets on? Naturally, the one who talks data, right? And now think about it in program management. I mean, how many times do we talk numbers? And this is something to ponder on. Okay, we say that we are a bit delayed. What is a bit delayed? I mean, it doesn't mean anything. We are 2 days delayed, we are 1 week delayed, or we are 1 month delayed. Tell us how delayed we are. We are broadly on time. What does it mean we are broadly on time? We are, as per project plan, are we 90% or 70% or 95%? So what happens is that all these adjectives and adverbs, even as a leader, even in a scenario which is not program management, even in operations, I would simply say that get rid of adjectives and adverbs. Be precise, be numbers driven. Okay. And I think then you have half of your problem solved. Now, in a ongoing operations, business operations, it's very easy to get the metrics right. You can get turnaround times, you can get the volumes, increases, decreases, blah blah blah, everything. How do you do it in projects? So in projects, we have to bring in, this concept of so what is the biggest thing that we do in projects? We are actually, it's like full of activities, activities after activities, right? And if you really want to put every single activity into the project plan, your project and plan will become 500 pages long. So not everything gets built into the project plan, right? And therefore, you always have a benign risk that the project plan is not detailed enough. Okay. So what you do is, below the project plan, you build what is called a WBS, a work breakdown structure, right? So once you have done the project plan, which is more for overall tracking, I think you need to get down into the work breakdown structure, where, let's say, for example, if your project plan says data migration, right? Is data migration a single activity that can be done? No. A data migration is consists of, let's say, 4 or 5 activities. The first activity is, let's say, take the data template. Okay. Then, so that's something that the partner has to give you. The partner consultant has to give you the template in which the new system will accept data. Then one of our IT guys has to go down and extract it, write some queries and extract data in that template, right? Then it comes back to consultant, and he will load this data, some sample data, into the system. Then, let's say, the functional consultant has to test a particular, process using that data, and that is when the data, and then you have to run that at scale. You have to go back, run that, take all this data and populate it. And if you are running a ERP kind of program, you got to do it like what, 10 departments, 15 departments? Can it be a single line activity? No. Is one person handling this activity? No. So you got to do a work breakdown structure for each of these activities. Whoever is the owner of the activity, project activity, needs to have a work breakdown structure underlying, and all of this need to be put somewhere, like, on your Teams or cloud, and be tracked. Now, if you have that level of detailing, it's again part of your rigor. But the moment you have that, you can precisely say my project activity is 10% or 20% or 30%, and you don't have to do this, oh, the wind is blowing this way. Okay. So that's the detailing of project plan into work breakdown structure. Okay. Project manager alone cannot do it. It has to be done as a collective activity by all the activity owners. Okay. But the data still has to be, somewhere together. The second thing is what I call as control sheets. Okay. Now, control sheets, again, think about, let me show you how a control sheet looks like. Okay. Okay. How can I show my screen? Okay. Forget it. You all know how control sheets work. So control sheet is nothing but, you know, many a times you have to do an activity many times over. Let's say you are handling, an ERP, and there's a set of activities that you need to do for multiple departments, right? So, for example, cost centers. Okay, so you have to do it for manufacturing, you have to do it for supply chain, you have to do it for finance, you have to do it for marketing, you have to do it for warehouses, etc., etc. Right? As many departments, as many times you have to do the activity, right? A control sheet is basically a list of activities to be tracked across multiple departments, and each of those cells have to be ticked whenever you do something. Again, this is a project activity converted into a control sheet. And if you have a control sheet in place, you know that this activity needs to be done. So 10 activities to be done across 15 departments, 150 activities, right? At any point in time, as a project manager, you will know what percentage I am. Am I 50 out of 150, or 33%, or I'm 110 out of 100, of 150, which is about 70%, etc., etc., right? So this is control sheets. The third is trackers. So again, not part of the project plan, but when you have a daily activity going on, right, you keep having these small little actions. Set up a meeting with this one, close this issue with so and so is not responding, or like, follow up with somebody. All of these things need to basically go into, again, a shared, tracker. Okay. And these trackers must have a few things. One is very clearly who owns that action, right? It has to be a name, again, not a department. And by when do you expect that action to be closed, right? And if you know a little bit of Excel, you can actually do what is called an overdue tracking. Okay. So build another column which says that if today is greater than the due date, then it is like, today minus the due date. Okay. And then you see how many days over any kind of activity or action is. Okay. That's called a tracker. Now, if you build these kind of, like, additional collaterals around your program and make it into a process, and let's say, have everyone who owns a major area do that, and then come together, every day, and, run the whole thing with the rigor, bubble up the issues to, the respective governances, set up those governances. I think these are some of the soft things that, and on how the entire framework of program management should work. Last but not the least, I want to pick up one area, which is basically culture. Okay. Now, and and I call it as a one team culture. Okay. So what is the one team culture? In any project, wherever you are working, you will always come across this mindset of we versus they. Okay. Who's we, the company. Who are they? They are like your partners, right? Either a partner or a business function. Okay. So this we versus they actually kills you. If you really want to fix one biggest thing, one pervasive thing across your entire program, is to basically explicitly tell everyone that, guys, we are together in it. Okay. Um, what are some of the things that you need to do to create that one team culture? One is, of course, as I said, you got to dine together. Dining together always builds one team. Second thing is, pass the recognition where it is due. As IT, we tend to take all the recognition, especially whatever partners are doing. We never celebrate them, right? So if they were our own team members, we would celebrate them, right? So give the recognition where it is due, right? The third thing and most important thing is, you have to make people feel valued. Okay. You don't have to make people feel that they're, like, working something to make you successful. They have to also feel that, they are contributing, you value their contributions. So, whether it's recognition, whether it is, like, involving them. And finally, the last thing which builds that one team culture is inclusion. Okay. Inclusion is that we are together in it. I'm not going to be me versus they, I versus them, in terms of, like, doing anything where I try to exclude somebody. I run my daily governance, I run my daily forums, and then I say, no, no, I don't want my partner in it. No, that's not inclusion, right? Or you say, I don't want my business guys in it. They will come to know my all the dirt in my, all my open actions and all. No, that is not what builds trust. So, and I have seen that people who are able to do big things, one common thing is that they're able to take everyone along, inclusion, and they're able to create trust with their inclusive practices. Okay. So on that note, we are at the end of the hour. Okay. Let me see if there are any residual questions. I don't see much here. Just one question which I want to pick up. Sorry, guys, I missed it. Which tools do you recommend for project management and tracking? Um, of course, you have the Microsoft project, you have other cloud tools like Project Place and all that, which help you do the traditional program management. There's one tool for the rest of it, whatever I shared with you. Microsoft Teams is something that can really, really accelerate your program management. Now, in a program, when I, got in, I said, guys, no mails. Okay. No mails means we use only Teams. So when you have to communicate, what do? You basically go on Teams in a chat and mention somebody. So we created work stream wise teams. We asked everyone to put their documentation on Teams. Even the documentation reviews, approvals, refinements happen there. So when somebody uploads a document, he mentions the people who have to review that document. He puts a post out there saying that, hey, at the rate, I have uploaded this particular blueprint. Please go and review it and leave your comments on the document. Then these guys, they come, they review the document. Wherever they find something is not in order, they basically select it and they add a comment. And again, they do a at the rate mention and say that, hey guys, this needs to be something different or whatever. The documents are in track changes mode. They can directly make changes if they want, and then you come and then you basically review all those comments and make those modifications and then say that, guys, I have resolved this, I have resolved this, right? And Microsoft has a hugely beautiful orchestration system where when you add a comment to a document, it gives you an option to convert it to a task. If you convert it to a task, it basically assigns that task, sends you a notification, the guy a notification, and right from your mail itself you can actually respond to that comment, right? Now this is, just imagine if you can take away email out of a program, what kind of efficiency and acceleration it can give you. So please try Teams. I mean, I have taken one session on Teams earlier, which was, I think, how one of the sessions is there, so you guys can actually check that out, because I myself use Teams in this kind of a manner with my team. Like, for example, all the documentation that we have around the ClariTea Chat, there's only one version always. There's only one version on Teams. My colleague makes it, I review it, he refines it, but we don't create another copy of the document. Even now, actually, I'm running it from the cloud. Okay, guys. So here is let's do a quick summary of today's session. So we discussed about the rigor, flexibility, governance equation. Rigor, rigor, because things are changing on a daily basis. You got to make sure that you're not leaving anything out of your documentation or out of your consideration. Flexibility, things are changing all the time, so you got to be flexible. Again, the daily management brings in that flexibility. And governance, you have to take decisions all the time, decisions that you cannot take alone. So you got to set up governance. Remember, this, governance is the design of decision making. So whenever you have to make a decision, if you're not the only person who will be affected by the decision, make sure that you have set up a governance forum. It can be small, it can be big, it doesn't matter. And then you have to create a hierarchy of those to bubble up the issues and to make that, we are systematic in identifying, collating, and taking up the issues in the respective forums, right? Partners, one of the biggest, I would say, factors in your success or failure. In, make inclusion a principle. Okay. Set up good governance with them, know them deeper, right down to the last person who's contributing to you, make them feel valued and empower them. They are not like your manufacturing vendors, who can be who you can be unfair with and they will not say anything, right? It's a, if you value your success, you must value your partners, right? And rigor, we talked about rigor, fact-based management, all of them go together. Having control sheets, not leaving out any activity untracked, not depending on project plan only, but also having these control sheets and activity trackers at all levels and creating these as processes that people follow. And then the most important thing, doing a data driven management, is that start bringing out matrices from all these data that you are generating, and talk data, not adjectives and adverbs. And last but not the least, use technology, not just a project tracking technology, but you have lots of documentation, lots of reviews, approvals, tasks to be done by each other. You can actually use micro. I haven't come across an alternative to Microsoft Teams. That's why I'm naming that technology. I don't do that generally, but Microsoft Teams is very powerful in making sure that no emails and everything, all documentation sharing, reviews, back and forth, etc., etc. Everything happens using the mentions and those adding comments on the documents. So, guys, I loved enjoy. I enjoyed this session really, and thanks for all kinds of questions that you have asked and your presence here. I really hope you found it useful and it helps you manage the program. If you have any specific issues in any specific program, any struggle that you're dealing with, feel free to reach out. Whatever I do as clarity chat or or helping people is like my way of paying forward. I've been blessed a lot, I believe, and I just pass it on. So do reach out if any of the programs is failing and you need any help. Okay. So on that note, I also want to thank all my audience who are watching the recording. I know most of the people actually watch the recording. Do hope you found it useful. If you have any question, please don't forget to please feel free to leave a comment out there, and we'll see if we can respond to that. Okay. Okay. On that note, see you guys. I know I'll be a little bit over, and that's something that I need to improve. 7 minutes over. But I really enjoyed the session. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your weekend. And I do hope you found it useful. Thank you so much.